My speaker today is Dave Heath, and I know many of you know him. He's a local man. He went through the Central Catholic and graduated from there. And then he went on to Ball State, and then he came back and joined the Deputy County Police Department. And then from then on, he became sheriff for 8 years, and then he was mayor of Lafayette for 8 years.
Yes.
And so, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave.
All right.
He's going to. He's the director of the Tippecanoe County Community Corrections Group, and he's going to talk to us about that today.
Well, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. Can you hear me? Everybody hear me okay?
Flip it right on. Sure, right.
That'll help. Good? All right. How many of you know very much about community corrections? I know Laura does, yes. Now, that's but, you know, I find that a lot of people don't really know a whole lot about community corrections, exactly what we do, and I find that as not only just regular citizens, but I find that legislators don't know a whole lot about what we do either. And so our goal has been to kind of educate them over the past couple of years about community corrections and what it does. Here in Tippecanoe County, it started in 1988. That was back when I was sheriff, and we started the work release program at the new jail on Duncan Road. It had one of the pods had an exit so that people could come in and out to go to work through those doors back there. And we brought back one of our retired deputy sheriffs to start get the program started, get it running. It was kind of nice because earlier at the old jail, one of my when I was sheriff, one of my deputies let someone out of jail. Actually, they came from California to pick him up. And he left. He accidentally gave him $250 that he didn't really have. He had $0. So I had to replace that $250 myself, personally. So I did that, and then I, of course, called California, and they weren't the least bit interested. They didn't care whether this guy owed me $250 or not. But he did come back to Tippecanoe County and got arrested again. And suddenly he wanted to make a deal to pay back the money. So I said, okay, you pay me $50 a month until you get going. We never paid the first $50. Well, then he got in trouble again, and he got put on in work release. And one of them came to me and said, you know, that guy that owes you the $250, he's in work release. And I said, well, don't tell him he's not leaving the building until he pays me the $250. Amazing, he did. He had it with him. It sure wasn't the same $250, but that's back when the program first started. It was at that building, and then in 1999, the Community Corrections Building, if you all know where that is, it's on 2800 North 9th. It just passed, right across the street from where the old landfill was. That was built in 1999. It has 168 beds in it, and right now we're limiting our capacity in there to 60 because of staffing. We don't have the staff to have any more than 60 in the building. About 4 years ago, expenses were starting to meet income, and something has to go, so we ended up laying off 8 people back then. So we're looking forward to getting some of those people back and being able to increase that with this new bill that was passed last year, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But just to give you a little information, this morning there were 50 people in work release, 266 on home detention, where they're on house arrest at their house, and about 100 of them are on GPS monitoring. So that means that we know where they're at, we know where they've been, we know where they've gone, and we know how fast they went to get there. On this GPS, it's a new technology that's really becoming. Well, there's just all kinds of new technology coming out for monitoring of people that are serving sentences or that are on pretrial release. Work crew, we have about 14 people on day reporting. That's where these are low-level people who are not a high risk, and they just come in once a week or up to 3 times a week and check in with us. So there's a time, and Laura will agree with this, where when people are not real high risk, the more you mess with them, you can turn them into high risk, because you just kind of gotta leave them alone. If they're not gonna reoffend, and we do tests on them to see what their level is as far as reoffending, then you're better off not supervising, over supervising them, I guess what I would say. In our budget, we get no money from the county general fund. All of our money comes from a grant from the Department of Corrections, which is just a little under $1 million a year. And then the balance of that, 78% of it is, or 72% of it is all from user fees, which are the fees that the inmates or the participants pay to be on our programs. So if they're in work release, it costs, they pay $14 a day. If they're on house arrest, they'll pay a minimum of $9 a day or 1 hour wages. So if it's a judge, it'd be about $62 a day. but for somebody who makes $10 an hour, it'd be $10 for that. And that's a little bit more, about $3 more for GPS monitoring. And we use those, the different programs that we have within community corrections to sanction people who don't follow the rules. And then as a final outcome, if they continue not to follow the rules, is jail. But we can take people from house arrest, put them in work release. If they don't follow the rules, we can take people who are just on regular monitoring and put them on GPS monitoring if they don't follow the rules. And from day reporting to house arrest or whatever, maybe back and forth. And we also reward them for following the rules, paying their fees, and we give them extra time to go do personal things. We give them extra free trial. We collect in the 80s, about 83, 84% of all the money that we're due. We collect that now. Just for an example, Marion County collects about 30%. So therefore, their general fund for the county puts about $2 million a year into community corrections. Where here, the council's pretty used to not having to do that, so I've never asked them for money, and I know better than to do it because they're already paying for a jail. You know, this program is we've got some people complain, well, this is just about money. Well, yeah, it is a little bit about money, because without the money, you're not going to have this program, and you're not going to be here, and you're going to be in jail instead. So it is. We have to collect the user fees and put that with the grant money that we get each year to make the program work. So, House Bill 1006. This is a legislation that was done and it passed a year ago. It passed over a year ago, but it went into effect January of 2014. Was a bill to redo all of the sentencing in the state of Indiana, and it changed the entire criminal justice code and created, instead of A, B, C, and D felonies, it's now level 1 through level 6 felonies, and starting July 1st of this year, or no, I'm sorry, January 1st of next year, no level 6 felons will be allowed to go to the Department of Corrections. That means they'll all stay locally, and statewide, that's going to be probably 7,000 more inmates into local programs versus going to the State Department of Corrections. And just to give you an idea, there are about 29,000 inmates in the Department of Corrections. In community corrections programs that are throughout the state of Indiana, which there's only about 6 counties that do not have community corrections programs. There's 17,000 people on community corrections programs throughout the state. So you can see what would happen to the state of Indiana if suddenly they had to make room for 17,000 more people. And they'd have to build 20 prisons. So the community corrections programs throughout the state do a lot to keep the cost of inmates down. Keeping people in jail is a lot more expensive than it is putting them on a community corrections program. And it gives them the opportunity to stay employed, to still support their family, to pay their fees, and to continue their education if they so desire. So most of the people that are in work release are employed. I think there's only about 5 or 6 out of that 50 that are not employed. So So it's pretty good. We give them an opportunity to get, when they're unemployed, when they come there, we give them passes so they can go apply for jobs, and they have to tell us where they're going, when they're gonna be there. They have to get paperwork signed by the people to make sure that they are doing exactly what they say. And if they don't, that's when they end up, people in work release get put on GPS monitoring also. That's the way we know that if they say, this is where I'm going, that's where they go. If they don't, that's a problem. We use evidence-based programs to reduce recidivism. That's keep people seeing the same people back again and again and again. And unfortunately, we do. And that's not just in community corrections. That's in our county jails and the state prisons all the time. So what's happening now is we're using more things that are tested, and you know that you can measure what recidivism is like, rather than just seeing the same people again and again and again. I could go on longer. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything that I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, this House Bill 1006 that passed this year, this is a different House Bill 1006, is providing the funding that's needed to community corrections and probation departments throughout the state to implement the new sentencing guidelines. And so this year, this year will be $5 million. Next year, there'll be an additional $20 million on top of that. So they did at least, they do understand that these things can't be done without the funding needed to do it. And investing $30 million into community corrections statewide is a pretty good investment, since it costs about $500 million to build a prison. And the one thing that they did that is probably the best thing that's been done for a long time is they made $30 million available for mental health. And that is going to be a key, I think, to reducing recidivism. And people with mental illness do not belong in jails. I think everybody knows that. So I'd be more than happy to take questions. I don't want to ramble on up here. Some of you look like your eyes are getting a little heavy after lunch. So, yes?
Will this require building more incarceration facilities in our county?
No. We've got 50 people in work release, so we can take another 118 there. And we're running around 300 on house arrest in that area, and we can go to about 450 on house arrest. So no, there won't be any. In fact, this grant money can't be used to build anything. It's just going to be used for evidence-based practices and staffing to be able to do that. We've got the capacity, we just don't have the staffing. So that's what we'll do, is we'll ask for money out of this grant to staff our work release facility. But no more building. Yes, sir?
What offense would make me eligible to
Well,
set presidency with you?
Well, Judge?
A lot of the lower level drug possession cases, sometimes first time drug dealing, low level dealing, property crimes, but not too many crimes against people.
Right.
And a lot of the GPS people are going to be your sex offenders who are having to register, and they'll be monitored by GPS. So they're a little, is it a blue dot? You see them on the map.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just read this morning where Mr. Obama is going to work on not putting drug people in prison, other alternatives. Would you be one of those alternatives?
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to work hard to even get your drug case even to community corrections. Your first and second time, you're going to be on probation. You want them to be there, so you got to work to get there.
Yes.
Just a comment, not a question. Several years ago, I organized a soil erosion project at the Happy Hollow Park, and we had some corrections people, probably not to this degree, but while we were working, one girl came up to me and said, "I'm here because I got expelled from Jefferson High School. Why are you here?"
Well, since now that Laura's back, I expect to see our road crew grow considerably. When she was judge before, we had lots of people available for a road crew. And road crews are very popular. And there's a lot of not-for-profits and county projects that we use it for, and they like getting out. Now that we actually stopped road crew for a while because we had too few people on it to justify doing it. But now we've started it back up again, and I expect that it will start to grow again because we have requests for road crew people all the time. I mean, and what we've been doing to accommodate some people is taking the few people that are unemployed that are in work release. They're believe it or not, they're anxious to get out and go someplace and do something, and so it's not hard to get volunteers to do it. Yes.
What are the qualifications for becoming a member of your staff?
Well, we have about 48 employees, and 8 of those are surveillance officers, and they go to the people that are on house arrest. They, depending upon what they're in for or what they're sentenced for, up to 3 and 4 times a week, they make personal contact at their home with them. And we also have we have our own canine that is a drug sniffing dog, and he's a really good dog. He's one of the best dogs in this county, and there's about 12 dogs, so yeah, he really does a good job. The qualifications are pretty much the same as being a police officer. We've had several of our people move on to police departments. We had one just go to the Secret Service, and we had one just go to IUPUI, one go to Lafayette Police Department, one go to the Sheriff's Department, and so it's good for them. I mean, we encourage them. It's a good place for somebody who wants to get involved in law enforcement to get a start and get their foot in the door and get to be known especially by the local agencies. And it just says to me that when we lose people like that are good, that we've hired the right people because they're moving on to good things. Yes.
I'd like to say that for quite a few years back when the road crew was very active, as the manager of the Clay Gardens, I took great advantage of that. And about every 2 weeks I would go down at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I could get as many as 25 people, most of whom Laura sent down there. And thank you very much, Laura, because we got rid of a lot of garlic mustard and all of that. And it used to be pretty bad. But anyway, the comments that those kids, mostly kids, now there were some older people. I remember we had one high society lady from West Lafayette in there, and she really did her job, but she didn't like it, that's for sure. But anyway, most of them were good kids that just went out and drank a little too much or some darn thing. There's no big crime. But anyway, they all had fairly good words, or most had fair. Now there are a few of them that didn't like Laura, and I heard her called many different names. But they realized that what the purpose of it is, and it kept them out of jail and all of that. So, but it was a lot of fun for me over those years. I benefited greatly from it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Good. Well, after a football game on Monday morning, there'd be a line of people that Laura had sent to. Yes, sir.
You talk about this new felony 6 through 1. Could you give a couple quick examples of what a 6 and a 5 and a 4?
Well,
And
6
how
is.
long are these sentences? I mean, are
They
they
can
like?
be up to a year or less. Sometimes, I think that the DOC is trying to get away from taking people that only spend a short period of time in the DOC. And we can still send a level 6 felon if they just can't fit in community corrections, and they're not gonna follow the rules. I mean, they will make exceptions, but we'll have level 5, level 4, and level 3. And just like now, we have B felons too.
So what do you do if you get a 6? What, is that drugs or what?
It could be first-time drug offense, could be DWI, could be with multiple DWIs. Laura? Got about
Some drug possession with prior
Possession.
offenses, operating while intoxicated with priors. It's your level 6 is your lowest level of felony.
like before, it was A, B, C, and D was the lowest level. And then there was murder, A, B, C, and D. Now there's murder and level 1 through 6. Yes.
Jared, statistics on how many of these people that go through community corrections you see are good?
Well, we're getting those. That's what we're in the process of collecting all that data. I could probably get it for you, but I don't have it right at the top of my head. I know that a lot of them do come back, because when they come back, sometimes they get sentenced again and they owe us money from the time before. Well, then they end up paying us, because we won't take it back if they don't pay. And it's amazing how quickly a lot of them have their money, they just don't want to part with it to us. You know, that's kind of some of the games that they play, you know. But we had, for example, we had one guy come in who was sentenced again for something, and he owed us over $5,000. And we told him that he couldn't get on until he paid the $5,000. You know how long it took him to get it? 4 hours. So, yes, someone else? Yes.
I'm wondering, are you connected at all to refer girls to school at home, or is that a completely separate thing?
Which one?
School or home?
Shoulder.
Shoulder home, sorry.
No, we don't refer people there. Does anybody get sentenced there? I'm not sure.
That's a juvenile facility.
Yeah, juvenile. We, when I first started 6 years ago, we had juvenile also. That we've since kind of parted ways with juvenile, and Rebecca Humphrey does the juvenile alternatives, and it's been a great thing for us because it was really expensive for us, and Rebecca's doing a really good job now, and it's just worked out a lot better. Anything else?
How does the GPS identify an individual?
It sends out a unique signal, and we can actually put their name in it, and we can actually put places where they cannot go, and it will notify us by text message if they enter an area. Say there's a victim, say it's a domestic case and they're on a pretrial release, we can exclude the victim's house and 5 blocks around it, and the same thing with sex offenders. If they go into a school zone, it will notify us, and it will notify them too by vibrating on their leg.
Oh, so there's a
Yeah,
a
yes.
device on there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's done with a cell phone, so it looks good. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We've all done it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave. We appreciate it, enlightening us, and we have this wonderful gift here for you.
I won't need it until later tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.